Hey, Songtown, I'm Clay Mills. Welcome. Today we've got a special treat. Marty Dodson is back from New York City, where he had a play go into production, and he's worked on that for quite a while. I thought it would be interesting, Marty, to talk about, since you've been writing songs for musicals, how things that work in the musical theater arena also work for songwriting in other areas.
Yeah, there's so much that I've learned that has really transfers over and has taught me about writing for artists in ways that I never thought of before.
Mhm.
And so, I think the first one might be that you have to really know the character to be able to write for them. And, so in musical theater, when I first started writing this project, the other composer had been working on this play for almost 40 years. And so I would throw out an idea and he would say, no, that's not Jenny at all. Jenny is this kind of person. She grew up with this situation. So Jenny would say this. But, that helped me really understand, like, oh, okay, I've got to dig into the script, and learn about this character. I even went back and read old scripts that had been changed just so I kind of knew the evolution of this character. And that really made me start thinking of, like, if I'm trying to write for especially an established artist, a Tim McGraw or Kenny Chesney, I need to really know who they are, where they've come from, what their background is, what came before the record that they're working on right now. And so that kind of information about, like, just really understanding who the character is, I think is something that really opened my eyes in my country songwriting and other genres of songwriting.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't matter that even if you're writing for yourself and you're not writing to pitch a song to a Kenny Chesney, you've got to know really what your character's about in the song, because I've seen a lot of confusing songs that have come through SongTown where they're talking about you in the song, but from verse to chorus, maybe that person they're talking about doesn't match up. It's like it's not a strong character.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important to understand those things if you want to write something that's really compelling, that's really going to work. Um, I think the next thing is the understanding that each song is a part of a bigger story.
Yeah.
And I never thought about my country songwriting that way. It was more isolated, like, okay, I think Miranda Lambert would like this song. And instead of going, okay, why would she like this song? Well, it's because here's where, here's the album that led up to this one. Here's the album, where might she go after that? And if I'm understanding the progression of where my song might fit into that bigger story that she's trying to tell, then I have a much better chance. And, part of that story is the artist's branding. Like, who are they? Are they, someone that sings about love a lot, or are they someone that looks at love more nostalgically? What kind of story does this artist tell, and how could I write something that would fit into it? And, in the musical theater world, I've had to work really closely with the script writer to have conversations about, well, do we want to say this with dialogue, or do we want to say it in song?
Right.
If we want to say it in song, does this song accomplish that, or do I need to rewrite it, or do we need a new song? And so there's been these constant conversations like that. And so in this last rehearsal period, we wound up writing, even though this play's been around for 40 years, we wrote 3 new songs because we just felt like the songs we had were kind of not doing the right work and not fitting into the story in the right way anymore.
Yeah, I've often heard it said that when you're writing for an artist, you want to write their sequel to the big song they had before. So you want to really understand who they are and where they came from to be able to write that sequel. One thing I thought was really cool that just reminded me of was, remember there was an old writer that he wrote Hunka Hunka Burning Love. What was his name? Dennis somebody?
I don't know.
Well, he went to work every day in his writing studio. Up on the board, he had a poster of a town. And so he would walk in and go, what's going on in the town today? He wanted to write something that was part of a bigger story about that town. So he had a song about somebody that wrote "I love you" on a water tower, and so that water tower was in his town. Like every one of his songs had a part in that picture, and he literally approached it every day of how can I tell what's going on in the town today. You know, the song "Earl Had to Die." Well, he knew that Earl was a cousin of another character in one of his songs, and every single song he wrote, that's how he kept it about real life.
That's amazing. That was Dennis Linde, wasn't
Dennis Linde, yes.
Yeah.
That's who I was trying to remember.
Yeah, you know, and that kind of came to life for me. Prior to this production, we have only had like staged readings. So there was no costumes, there was no set, anything like that. And so when we started seeing these songs come to life in the actual set that we had imagined, all of a sudden things are not working the way we thought,
Yeah.
or this thing works better than we thought. And so that I love that idea of visualizing it being a real place, because now I can actually visualize the places in the show,
Right.
which changes how I think about those songs, you know, and my approach to them.
Yeah, so if you had actually had that information in your head to begin with, it would have been easier.
Yeah, absolutely. I may try the poster idea. I love that. The next thing I think I learned is that each song has a job to do.
Yeah.
So, you know, there have been occasions, especially early on when I was working on this project, I would come in with a song idea and they would go, how does that move the story along? I go, well, I just thought it was a cool song, you know? And they're like, well, no, there has to be a purpose for this song. And if you think about it, you know, if an artist is going to go spend $50,000 or $100,000, or if they're going to spend $500,000 promoting a song, there's got to be a purpose. There's got to be a really strong job that song does in their show, probably, on their album. You know, it accomplishes something that they want, whether it's providing energy, whether it's providing emotion and providing that moment where the artist comes out on stage with just their guitar and is very intimate with the audience. You know, there's a job that every song they record is supposed to do, just like there is in a show, you know. And so I have to write songs that propel the story along just as much as the script. And when we write for other genres, for artists, we have to do the same thing. We have to propel their show along. We have to propel their album or whatever it is that they're putting out.
I mean, how many times on a tip sheet have we seen X artist is looking for a show opener? And that's, you're specifically writing, envisioning that the crowd, curtains open, or he comes out on stage, or she comes out on stage, there's the audience, and how do you set the tone for the whole evening without giving away too much, but get them excited and pumped up to be there. So it's very much writing for that role in the show. I've heard you talk about, and this could be the next one on the list, you have to know what the singer wants. You have to know the character, the singer, what do they want in that song to happen?
Yeah. Yeah, when I first started writing for musical theater, they would tell me, okay, this character needs an I want song, and I had to have them explain that. But what they meant was, why is this character in the show? What is this character wanting to have happen as the show progresses? And so, you know, you'll have these big songs in plays that, you know, like in Wicked, Defying Gravity would be kind of the I want song for Elphaba in that show. And so when I started thinking that way, I'm realizing, okay, understanding what each character wants in each song really gives me some insight into how to craft that song, and more specifically, what to write out of that song.
Yeah.
You know, because I see lines and I go, well, that's not really supporting what they want in this song. You know, they're trying to ask for forgiveness and they're blaming the other person.
Yeah.
Well, that's not how you get forgiveness necessarily. And so it really has helped me focus on, is every line pointing to what the singer wants? Is every line contributing to what the singer wants? You know, if they want someone to fall in love with them, or they want someone to forgive them, or they want someone to get out of their life, whatever it is, if I can make every line support that idea, then my song's going to work a lot better if I don't have that understanding of what the singer wants in that song.
Yeah, I know in the comments we're going to have somebody say, well, I'm just writing a song of what I feel. And sometimes I feel this and sometimes I feel that about the person. And to me, okay, we'll write a song about, sometimes I feel this, sometimes I feel that, but I always feel this, or whatever it is. Make that the idea of the song. But to just randomly make statements that don't go together, that don't have the same feeling and the same aim, you're just going to confuse the listener. They're not going to know how to feel themselves.
Right.
And that's our job, is to make the person who hears the song feel it and feel what you want them to feel. We're trying to communicate from our hearts to their hearts. And if we're very confused about what we're trying to feel and what we're trying to have the singer want to accomplish, then it's not going to come across in a clear way. And the audience is going to be like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's not to say that you can't write a great song just randomly and it finds a home.
Yeah.
If it is truly great and it makes people feel something. But I think you've got a lot better shot of that happening if you understand what the character in your song is wanting.
Yes, it's the same way when somebody goes through a life trauma and they're real clear about how they're feeling. And so, you broke my heart, but I'm over you now. There's like a clear direction. And I think sometimes as writers, when we don't have those moments of trauma or drama in our life, that we're sitting down to write a song, we've got to create that direction. Inspiration needs direction. And so I think that's our job as writers, is to have that focus when we're not going through something that focuses for us.
Yeah. In my show, we have one character, the mother character in the story, who has really kind of been a stage mom. She's pushed for the family to be successful in music, and she's very angry. And people were asking, our big producers from New York were saying, I don't understand why she's so angry. You're not letting us know in the show why she's so angry. So I had to work with a script writer to create a little scene where she reveals something about what makes her angry and bitter. And then she sings this song where she just unleashes on her daughter and her husband. And she's saying, you know what this cost me. And everything I did it for you. And you people don't even appreciate me. And once we put that song in.
Very common emotion for us humans.
Exactly, especially moms. I think, a lot of moms sacrifice a lot of things. And so when we put that song in, all of a sudden the producers are like, okay, we get it. Now we know what she wants. She wants people to acknowledge the sacrifice that she has made and that she's not getting it from these people in the show. And we had several people after the first show with that song in it came up and said, I'm a mother, and I can't tell you how much I was going, yes, yes, when she was singing that song, And it's all because we have real clear vision of what she wanted. And there's a line in the song, if I'm invisible, please tell me why. Because she's saying, no one sees the sacrifices that I make for this family, kind of thing,
You know how they often say the first album project an artist comes out with is their best because they had years to write it. And so it's the same way you're talking about. You had years to really focus in and refine that story and the songs.
Yeah.
So often when artists, first album comes out, they take off like a bullet. They're touring, they're doing videos, they're recording their next project, they're doing interviews. They're so busy, they don't have the time to put into actually writing the best songs for that next project. So time is a big thing. If you have time, it's a big luxury that you can use to really rewrite and refine your tunes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the last one would probably be, and we've hinted at this and some other things we've talked about, but I think the idea that a song without purpose rarely works. That we've had some songs that we call them trunk songs for the musical, like songs we really love, but they just don't serve the purpose well enough. There was a song for the last production that I thought was really great, about two of the main characters and getting older, called Golden Outlaws, and just didn't work. I mean, everyone kind of had the consensus that it just didn't do enough for the show to keep it in there. And so I think the way that's transferred over to my country writing is like, when the artist hears it or the A&R person or the producer, I want them to have real clarity on the purpose of this song. Like, oh, I see where this song would fit in the show. This would get people on their feet. This would make people hold the person they came with and dance in the aisles. And if I can do that, if I can translate that in the song where there's real clarity on the other end, I've got a lot better shot. And, and that's the way it's worked in the musical as well. It's just, if we turn in a song that's got real purpose in the show, the script writer will even go, okay, that's great. Let me cut some scenes because you said enough in that song that I don't have to say it in words, And so I'm hyper-focused these days on the purpose for the song and making sure that comes across to everyone who hears it.
Awesome. Got any more?
That's it.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Cheers.
Take care.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you appreciate the content, hit the subscribe button and help us grow. Shout out to Sweetwater Music. It's where Marty and I get all our musical gear. Great people. We'll see you guys around town. Right on.